Hello and welcome to the Joe Ligato Show. I'm your host, Dr. Joe Ligato, and today we're going to be talking really about how Israel is losing the propaganda war, how the Zionists across the entire world are losing the propaganda war despite controlling all the various components of the traditional media and entertainment apparatus. And so we're going to start off with a video that really should be eye-opening to people. And this is a tweet by Censored Man. I'm so confused as an American citizen why every American presidential candidate has to go kiss the hand and bend the knee to AIPAC. And this is not only Republicans or Democrats, it's both. And then it's also third-party candidates, and it's also independents. Everyone, if you have to have a chance of winning in the United States, you have to bend the knee to AIPAC, you have to bend the knee to Zionism. And so let's just watch it. I think he says it best. This is Bassem Youssef, who is talking to oh no, I blanked on his name all of a sudden. Piers Morgan.
I'm kind of like so confused as an American citizen why every American presidential candidate have to go and kiss the hand and bend the knees to AIPAC. This is a lobby that works for a foreign country interest. Why don't we have like a lobby for Saudi Arabia? At least they're giving us more money.
So should be a good question. Why are these not registered foreign agents? They say something like 97% of all of the candidates that are backed by AIPAC win their election. So when you see that the majority of the American population, I believe it was 66% of Americans, want a ceasefire, but none of the American politicians advocate for a ceasefire. Well, I shouldn't say none. I think it was like 10 out of hundreds of House of Representatives members or something like that. So there's a few people. But again, AIPAC completely controls our legislative branch, our judicial branch, our executive branch, et cetera, et cetera. And we can see that here, 65% of Americans want a ceasefire, 0 ceasefire votes in the Senate, 0 ceasefire in the White House, only a few ceasefire votes in the House of Representatives. I believe it was 10. And so Jackson Hinkle, is coming directly out and saying, we do not live in a democracy. Because a democracy is supposed to represent the will of the people. And we've seen this in research studies as well, where it is the oligarchs, the banking cartel interests, that typically gets policy change enacted. And the average person, their desires has no influence over the supposed democracy of America. And so just to show you what's happening in terms of the international community response to the Israeli genocide of Palestine, Jordan informed Yemen that it will not allow its airspace to be used against Israel. Saudi Arabia also opposed Yemen's request to use its airspace against Israel, but they do let Israeli airplanes use their airspace. So this should be shameful. I'm sure the populations of both Jordan and Saudi Arabia, I know some people in Jordan, I'm sure they're all ashamed of what's going on because they obviously support the Palestinian cause, but America has puppets in charge of these two countries. So in that regard, Israel is winning some of the international community just because of the fact that the governments get all of their legitimacy from being backed by the United States. So here we see the leader of a Turkish party from the ruling alliance called on parliament to vote in favor of sending Turkish troops to the Gaza Strip for a year. And so things are really heating up here because this is a leader of the Turkish party from the ruling alliance. And he's pressuring Erdogan. And I think everyone should pressure Erdogan because if anyone is going to make a move that could help to stop the Palestinian genocide, it would be Turkey right now. And so they have to remember their historical Ottoman Empire roots and take the initiative, take the leadership role of helping out the Palestinians. Next up, we have Bahrain. I don't know how to pronounce that exactly. It's a small little island nation. If I remember correctly, it has a majority Shia population, but its government is actually Sunni-led. And we're having more progress, more inroads. I guess these various Muslim nations felt ashamed that it was actually Latin American nations that were taking steps to punish Israel for its genocide. But Bahrain, a Muslim nation, has now expelled Israeli ambassadors. It recalls its ambassadors from Tel Aviv and severs economic relations with Israel. Okay, so more and more progress on stopping the genocide there. And we see here, Russia is taking a stronger and stronger stance. So it used to be the case that Russia was just talking about, let's have a ceasefire. Both sides are wrong. They have some things that they've done wrong. Let's have a two-state solution. Now Russia is pivoting more towards its support of the Islamic population, the Arabic population of Palestine. So the Russian envoy to the UN says Israel has no right to self-defense in the current conflict because it's an occupying state. Yes, that is the case under international law. Russia is increasingly toughening its tone towards Israel. This is a completely natural development of events because Iran is an ally of Russia and Israel is just another American puppet. Israel also gave 300,000 of its 155 millimeter projectiles to the U.S., which were later transferred to Ukraine. Russia will not directly supply the Palestinian resistance with weapons, but will supply them to Iran, who will probably supply them to the Palestinian resistance and to Hezbollah. So we see that Israel's actions are coming back to haunt them, where Israel gave weaponry to America, which then gave it to Ukraine, which was used against Russians. And Russians are saying, well, hold on a second. If you're supplying our enemy who is trying to genocide Russians or Russian speakers, we're going to not take your side, obviously, and we're going to supply weaponry to Iran, who has been completely innocent of anything that's been going on. That's the weird thing is, I don't understand how Americans really buy into the propaganda against Iran, because if we're being honest here, all of the supposed terrorist attacks that have occurred in the West have been from Sunni Muslims. And Iran is a Shia Muslim nation. It's the largest, strongest Shia Muslim nation in the world. And they've conducted no terrorist attacks. So when Americans talk about terrorism and how they have to stop Iran, it's literally never been Iran. Like, Iran tries to mind its own business. It just doesn't want to be a puppet of the United States like the prior government in Iran was, that the current government overthrew. And so it's really weird how Americans have this hatred boner for Iran when Iran just doesn't do anything. It just wants to not be influenced and wants to not be a puppet of the United States. And it's such a pivotal area that the United States needs it to be a puppet. And so that's why America is so aggressive towards Iran. So we see here that Russia is potentially taking more steps, and they're doing it indirectly. And I used to throw this out there, and if people believed it or not, it's up to them. But I used to say to anyone who would listen that Russia needs to have mercenaries, private military companies, that it could use for plausible deniability when it wants to get involved in conflicts abroad in order to stop or slow down American influence. And this was before Wagner was created. This was over a decade ago. I talked about this. I do think that they should have had many smaller private military companies instead of one large one. But we see that Russia is still using these for plausible deniability when they want to get involved. And so Wall Street Journal is reporting that according to U.S. intel, Wagner Group may try to transfer advanced air defense systems to Hezbollah. Wagner and Hezbollah fought together against ISIS in Syria, so I wouldn't rule out the possibility of this happening. So again, Russia indirectly, but still taking a larger and larger role in this conflict. I really think they have such interest in this that if America did go directly to attack Iran, I think Russia would have to get involved at that point. They just couldn't allow it. Even Syria, just Russia has invested so much. I don't think they would allow Syria to fall at this point. And so we see here, this is showing more and more integration in the international community, the West versus the rest, the Western hegemony versus the multipolar bloc, the Zionist versus anti-Zionist coalitions forming. And we see Ayatollah Khamenei's military advisor is talking to the deputy chief of the Joint Staff Department of China's Central Military Commission. And this is a really important quote, so that's why I'm showing you it. The armed forces of China and Iran need to achieve a common perception of various threats and common interests. So they are aligning their foreign policy and their military actions in the future. So we're not calling it a military alliance, what's going on between Russia and China, or what's going on between Russia and Iran, or China and Iran, et cetera, et cetera. But it's shaping up to be a military alliance in every way that matters. It's just that that trigger hasn't been pulled about calling it into action. And so here we see just how isolated the West is. I thought it's a somewhat unrelated vote, but at the same time, you're seeing that Cuba, a staunch ally of Palestinian liberation and working on the side of the multipolar bloc, and you're seeing just how isolated the United States and Israel is. And so if you're an American citizen, as I am, you should be heavily concerned about this because America is losing very, very rapidly on the world stage. So here we see a United Nations vote. Every country in the world has condemned the U.S. blockade on Cuba, with the exception of the United States and Israel. So look how isolated they are. The two very same entities which are jointly committing a genocide against the Palestinian people in Gaza. So, and you can also see Ukraine has abstained. So that's the dividing lines right now, where America is on the back foot. They're losing all across the world, and their masters, Israel, and their pet project, Ukraine, are the only countries allied with them in some of these votes nowadays. Even places like UK and France, which are puppets of the United States, who is a puppet of Israel, even they're not willing to vote against this condemnation. And so just wild to see America in 20 or so years go from the clear sole superpower, people are calling it like the hyperpower, just coming up with new names for it, to really losing in every way that matters as far as I can see. So if you found this video to be informative, please give us a like, a thumbs up. It does help us in the algorithm. Please subscribe to our channel for more content. I am making videos nonstop, and like, whoa, it's wild how many videos have to be made on what's going on. Just me collecting the information and figuring out ways of synthesizing it to convey it to you in a way that is digestible and informative, and filtering out the things that don't matter as much, or things that are lies or wrong or propaganda, et cetera, et cetera. That's really how I see my job here. And it's been a lot of work. Like, I've been making videos just, right now I have over a month of extra content just prepared, scheduled, waiting to show you guys. There's just so much going on. This is one of those times in history where things are moving faster than people can truly fully process. Like, I'm not even spending any time anymore talking about the Ukraine war, which I really would love to spend more time talking about, because there's a genocide going on in Palestine and we just have to spend so much time on it. But anyways, I will get back to what I guess I'm trying to say is I will get back to some of my other content soon. We have to talk about this Judeo-Islamic War 2023. It's just so wildly important. But we have other types of content in the pipeline for you. So please subscribe to our channels on YouTube and Rumble. Please leave us a comment in the comment box below. Questions, comments, concerns, critiques. I love reading all of it, even if it's like hate mail. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a good rest of your day. Bye.